Welcome, friends, to Ice Cave Radio, episode number 35. This is a podcast focusing on Star Wars Unlimited and all the other Star Wars card games that we just can't get enough of. It's Flake, it's Charmer. DoA has made a triumphant return.
Yeah, I know I said I was going on hiatus to some people at the event this last weekend, but I'm putting my hiatus on hiatus. I got a babysitter specifically to come and join you all to talk about the event we were at last weekend because it was so awesome. But we'll get into that, but we'll also get into the regular headline strategies and discussion points that you want to hear about in the world of Star Wars card gaming, specifically Star Wars Unlimited, a game which we have actual cards now.
Yes.
Yay.
Yeah.
Yay.
Now, what's funny about this, DoA, is the fact that we have been asked multiple times about a Patreon and such, which we will be working on. Maybe part of the Patreon revenue can go to getting a babysitter so that we can have,
maybe
more
we'll see,
or packs or other things like running the show.
Yeah, I noticed I only have a little bit of baby slobber on my shoulder today, so that's pretty good. This is less than usual. And in case anyone's wondering what this is drool. Yeah, not from me, thankfully.
It's not from me.
Yeah. It's from a 7-month-old.
It's from
so
Charmer.
We'll accept it. Yeah, it's for. I wasn't gonna say, but it's from Charmer. Yeah. How you doing?
Yeah. I guess that's what we're doing this week, huh?
Why not?
It was me. I was just slobbering all over my good friend Erik.
Hey.
Honestly, I was just drooling over his brand new Star Wars cards because that's what I've been drooling over. All of those amazing hyperspace foils because holy cow, do they look way better in person.
They do.
They really do.
They do.
They really do.
I think we'll definitely get to that.
You got a good one. Yeah, we'll talk about that later.
Oh yeah. We got some great ones, especially Charmer. Charmer, I think, won that day for sure.
Yeah, I think we all pulled good stuff, but that was impressive. Although we didn't pull anything as impressive as the person, I forget who it was, the very first pack that was open when they said you can open your sealed packs, pulled a showcase Emperor Palpatine. No, a showcase Krennic. A showcase Krennic. Yeah. And it's like, seriously? The very first pack that was opened in the venue was a showcase Krennic.
All downhill from there.
Kind of amazing, yeah. And there was also a showcase Palpatine opened during the same opening when we were getting ready for sealed. But yeah, pretty cool stuff.
Wish it looked pretty.
Pack. It did.
It looked beautiful.
Yeah.
They all look beautiful.
Maybe you want to lock it down.
You look beautiful,
You know what
Charmer.
else is beautiful?
What?
You know what else is beautiful?
Tell me.
The cave pull of the week.
All right, so it is the cave poll of the week, available at Ice Cave Radio on Twitter every Sunday as best as we can. Hey, we were on time this week, which was great.
Which was shocking because we were traveling.
We were all traveling.
Yeah.
Super Bowl Sunday, get a cave poll up there. This week's cave poll is, frankly, it's very simple. What game mode are you most excited to play? Your options were sealed, which is what we got to play most prominently this past weekend.
Draft.
Yeah, we definitely did some drafting up until probably about 2 or 3 in the morning in the hotel lobby. That was an option. Mm-hmm. The brand new option, Twin Suns, incredible, which we were all wrong on because I think all of us thought it was going to be like a 2-headed dragon thing, or 2-headed monster or whatever. And finally, constructed, just standard constructed, go ham, 50-card deck, make it happen. I want to ask you, DoA, which of these game modes are you most excited to play?
Which do you think I picked?
It's not limited because we know you're not a limited player. I'm going to say I think you voted for constructed. I feel like you're very much somebody who likes organization, structure. That to me seems like a very DoA-esque thing.
Well, organization is definitely the least DoA-esque thing there is in the world, I think. But that said, I do, and I have said many times, I think the pinnacle of card game play, the pinnacle of TCG play is constructed, right? Because that is where the game is operating as it should be operated, right? This is a game where you spend time, you play test, you research, you build a deck that you think is just going to be perfect to take into a tournament and smoke the competition. And if you're not playing it that way, you are playing a lesser form of the game, I think. So I picked constructed. Now, that said, I probably, and I'm not just saying this, I probably do like limited better in this game than any other game I've played, which I'm kind of surprised about. We can get into the reasons later, but I do like limited in this game. But to me, it's always going to be constructed.
Charmer?
I voted for draft. I just really like drafting, as evident from the weekend where I was asking anyone and everyone, hey, when are we drafting? You want to draft? Do you want to draft? You were talking about the time spent that Saturday into the wee Sunday hours. I know I went back to my room around 4 a.m. I was like one of the last few who called it and went up, but I just really like to draft. That's my favorite way to experience the game. You get to open new packs. You get to build a deck. It's not as... So I like that with draft, there's like a mini game within a game, right? Like you still have agency in building your deck when you play sealed, but it's not quite the same because there's also the like identifying what the players at the table are drafting, which aspects you want to go into, all of that. There's the extra added element during the leader phase that I think is really going to catch some people off guard with this, because it happened to me in one of the drafts where I got completely locked out of villainy because I wasn't paying attention to the leaders that were to my left, because the first thing gets passed right. And so instead of keeping my only villainy leader out of my first pack, I kept a Chewbacca because I wanted to diversify. And then I looked and somebody else sent me a Chewbacca as well. And then I was like, oh, suddenly I can't draft any cunning or villainy because I had no leaders to support it, or I'm paying the tax, obviously. So, yeah, it's a really interesting and dynamic format, and I'm all in on it.
I also selected draft. I don't think there's any... I mean, I love draft. Constructed, obviously, I love as well. I haven't touched Twin Suns. I'm excited to try it for sure. To me, it's going to feel like a lot of fun. The diplomacy aspect of it is really cool. But ultimately, draft for me is awesome because where you, DoA, say that the pinnacle of TCG gameplay is going to be constructed play, I happen to agree with you on that. But to me, what I like about draft is that it kind of taps into a different skill set. It's a grow a flower out of a pile of crap. Like that's kind of like what sealed is, and draft is very much a little bit more selective. But what I loved about it, and the first time I drafted, I ended up doing the on-camera game against Jeremy Zwern, which is like facing off against the Emperor when you just showed up to Jedi training. And I'm like, okay, like this is just going to be a nightmare. But the draft situation was, like you said, Charmer, the first draft, I just didn't even think about the leader aspect of passing it, what's coming my way, what I have access to. And then I got screwed because I had like, okay, I have 2 villainy cunning heroes and 1 heroism vigilance or something. You know, like I feel like I'm okay here, but I just kind of locked myself into not having a vaster array of what I wanted, and I needed to start paying attention. And as we did more drafting in the hotel lobbies or at the venue at Wisdom Gaming, that's when I started to be like, what do I have? What's coming my way? Let's start to strategize. And then that bled into the decision making of what am I passing to my left? What am I passing to my right? What am I helping with? What can I anticipate will be open? Like, for example, if I have this common, if I want to take it because it's within my color, but if I pass the pack and take something else, there's a good chance that a similar common will come my way because the 2 people on my left are not within heroism or something, or they're likely not playing heroism. So I liked draft the best. I think that to me was the beauty, the little gem of the weekend was drafting the game for many reasons.
I will say too, before we get into our results, I liked drafting a lot as well. And the reason is because it feels like a different game from constructed. Like the leaders that are good in draft aren't necessarily the leaders that'll be good in constructed and vice versa. Oftentimes my biggest problem with like draft and sealed is that it just feels like you're playing a worse version of the deck you would rather be playing. And this game is different because something like IG-88, for instance, is not going to be the top of constructed play, but it's pretty solid in draft, right? I mean, you can use that ability to get the little edge and damage over your opponents in a lot of situations. So you're going to be probably happy to play IG-88 in draft, whereas like you're probably never going to really play him in constructed unless you really like that character, right? So I like that. I like that I'm playing things I wouldn't play otherwise, and I can have a genuinely different experience in the type of deck I'm playing than I would constructed. That's why I give this one a pass for draft, and I really enjoy it.
Okay, that's fair. Let's get to the results. The results being, with a convincing margin of victory, it is constructed at 39.3%. Second place is draft. You don't win. It's not you.
I did win. The thing I picked won. I won.
Draft at 27.4% came in second. Twin Suns at 23.9%. And a distant last is Sealed at 9.4%. I don't think I'm too surprised about this. Sealed typically is the least favorite of a lot of people, but I personally like it. But it's like I said, it's just probably the least appealing. I see that Twin Suns is getting a lot of votes here. It's frankly a 3-horse race, and the Twin Suns being such a close third against everything else, I think people are just excited for a different style of play that involves their standard crew, like their four stack of card gamers, their commander group, let's say, as it would be. And I think that's fair. I think that the results here are probably spot on. I mean, it's a poll, so obviously it's going to be spot on to whatever the sentiment is, but I think that this is good. I think that this is a good snapshot.
Yeah. I haven't gotten to play Twin Suns yet, but I'm really excited to do it. I'm very excited to build my first Twin Suns deck and play that because, I mean, man, like Commander is the only way I'll engage with Magic now, and I have a ton of fun with that. So the fact that Twin Suns is like, again, so different from the base game, and is just more geared towards do something fun, try to put something together that's really cool. I think that's awesome. I was kind of thinking about the Han Chewie combo because why not? It's a lore duo, right? But with Han's ability, you could like on turn 5 you could create an extra resource, use it to flip Han because you've got 6 resources, then attack with him to get a 7th resource, and then use that to flip Chewie. So you could on like resource turn 5 get both of your leaders flipped and have this like big thing. And I don't know if it'd be any good, but it'd just be kind of fun. So like doing things like that makes it sound like Twin Suns is going to be a really fun mode to play.
Part of it, though, is exactly what you said. And this is, I think, part of the mentality of people and playing this game is that exactly what you described, which was, I don't know if it's good, but it sounds fun, and I want to do it. That, I think, is a big selling point to this game. And Charmer and I, we discussed this last week on, like, how can this appeal to you as a casual? That is exactly what you said, which is, hey, this looks fun to do. Let's just do it. And that's part of it. Like, Twin Suns is meant to be a casual for fun situation. So
I need to tell this story because I'm still upset with Josh. I'm not actually upset, but I think that it's really funny. You talk about like just do the fun thing. The night before they announced Twin Suns, when we were at the dinner, we're all standing around, and myself and Josh Massey and Jim and some others were all kind of shooting casual formats, right? Because I was saying something like, hey, the best thing about physical card games is you can just make up whatever rules you want. All the best, in my opinion anyway, all the best multiplayer, like for fun Magic formats were stuff that people just made up on their own. Whether that's Commander when it used to be EDH, or the Emperor format, the Bounty format, even Two-Headed Giant, all of that stuff. And we were talking about how Singleton would look, and somebody said, hey, with set 1, it's really hard to do Singleton because there's just not a big enough pool, right? Like you're basically stuck running everything. And then I just on a whim said, it'd be really kind of cool if there was just a format where you had 2 leaders, because then you get access to either another aspect or your 3 aspect combo, but you can run the double cards or whatever the case may be. And both Jim and Josh just like dead stared at me like, that sounds cool. Didn't give me a hint, not a wink, not a anything. Poker face. One, shout out to them for not giving anything away. They got great poker faces, but also that's exactly what I think of when I think of Twin Suns, because that was what I was thinking about before I even knew it was a format. I was like, hey, this sounds fun, right? This would be neat to do. And turns out that's an entire format.
They were good at the poker face stuff all night long. We're gonna squeeze in a bad feeling mailbag question because it's pertinent to the poll, which is from Rogue 9 Jaw asking, now that you've been able to play several different styles, which one do you think the game will most likely live in, or what is the prominent game mode? Is it constructed, draft, sealed, Twin Suns? I'm going to say it's constructed. I think that that's just the truth for most card games. But I really believe that this is a game that can have a strong culture across limited, constructed, and Twin Suns. I truly and firmly believe that. And for those who might not have a lot of Magic-related, experience, the driving force for Magic is its Commander. That is what everybody is basically hanging on to right now as being the shining and brightest star, because Commander in Magic is a brilliant format. It's a brilliant, brilliant invention of the game, a great flavor. Twin Suns can do that, so you'll have that culture bubbling up. The draft experience has been incredible from the 4 or 5 drafts I've done. And constructed is constructed. It's just evergreen. It will always be, like DoA says, the pinnacle of TCG skill expression.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's obviously going to be constructed. I would agree there. I think usually in set 1 of a game, like the first set of a game, that period of its existence, draft is much more prominent, because you get to a point where on the constructed side of things, you get to the limit of what you can do pretty quick with just a one set worth of cards, So I think draft is going to be, more popular early on with this set in particular. And then as more cards get added into the pool, set 2, set 3, etc., then, you're going to have people shifting more and more towards the constructed side. But yeah, seriously, like I hope people realize like what a big deal this is for me to say this, who's been like kind of anti-limited for his entire 20 plus years of card game existence. Like I would sit down and play draft anytime in this game. Like I wish I had more time to do it this weekend. Like I had a lot of fun with it. So I'll do it. This game specifically won me over for draft. I never really enjoyed in anything else, but this game I like it.
Well, to quote Cosmo Kramer, he's a raging anti-draftite. But you've come around, and that's important.
I still will be anything outside of SWU, but now I'm pro draft in SWU, anti draft everything
that's
else
fine.
Like usual. Yeah.
I mean, that's a great endorsement of the game when renowned
Sure.
anti-draftite DoA is actually loving it and enjoying it and wants more of it.
I'm in the anti-limited club now.
Shall we move on to the headlines, which I guess are not all that prominent because they're kind of going through a little bit of an information slowdown because most of the stuff is out there. Now we are playing the waiting game, frankly. There's going to be some demo events that are happening. I have been in the ear of SCG and SCG Con to put some events in Philadelphia because it's the release weekend of the game. I'm like, listen, I will go. I will drive to Philadelphia, help you out to teach people to play the game and do all that stuff. But you have to make events for it. And it kind of shocks me that they're not doing it. But they're kind of like, I haven't received an official yes or no yet. So, but I promise everybody out there that I'm using my limited influence amidst the people I know at SCG to be like, can you please put this on the menu? You've got Lorcana, you've got all kinds of other stuff. Put this on the menu. It is a vastly superior game to Lorcana. Like, let's just be real here.
Let's get that change.org petition going. Yeah. Let's go.
I have one headline that I would like to bring up that has nothing to do with Star Wars or Star Wars Unlimited or card gaming at all.
Oh boy.
You see it on the notes.
Oh yeah, I do. Yep.
Yeah.
This was a topic of much conversation too over the weekend, not just with us, but with many people were coming up to Flake and giving their opinion on this topic, I will say.
Yes. Charmer was there for a lot of it.
Yeah.
This even has bled into, for example, when I was in Hartford for Flesh and Blood, people were coming up to me and telling me that I was either wrong or right, or they have heard other variants of this. So we're going to bring up the cat's ass situation, which frankly, I'm going to put this to bed because I have in the comments of the cat's ass video is that there has been many people saying, no, the saying is actually, it's the cat's meow, it's the cat's pajamas, it's the cat's whiskers. That is the official saying. And now we have it in print because friend of the show, John Franey, has supplied to me a picture of I was going to say screenshot, a picture of the page of a book that John is reading wherein the term the cat's ass is used. It is there. It is in print in black and white on a physical card paper page. It is a saying, ladies and gentlemen. It is a saying. Yeah. It got through the editors. The publisher approved it. There it is. It is real. That's all. That is the headline.
Is it, though? What is the oldest version of the cat's something? Because cat's pajamas, for instance, goes back to like the 1920s. So how old is your version? What is the original cat's insert extra word here?
Well, cats have only had pajamas since the 20s, but they've had asses forever. So, and I guess they've had whiskers and meows, but still.
I can't argue with that. Yeah, well, I can argue. Yeah, well,
you can. Charmer, would you like to just sort of solidify this? Because I mean, you were part of this conversation, as was DoA, probably reluctantly so. But
I'm looking it up.
This is what we need.
The origins of all these. Yeah. The cat's meow as well. Did we talk about that one?
The cat's meow?
Yeah. The bee's knees. Not cat related.
Well, the thing about it is like the tangent that rolled off of this one was that people were starting to give us other alternatives with Star Wars creatures.
Yes.
I don't know if we can say them all.
Probably not all of them.
Not all of them, definitely.
Mm-hmm. Did you know there's other ones like dog's bullocks?
Yes.
I didn't think that was one.
It's
or
a British one.
Or the spider's ankles, apparently in Ireland. They say the spider's ankles. According to,
that's a lot of ankles.
The font of knowledge, Wikipedia, an ant's pants in Australia.
Oh, that's a good one.
At least that would make sense. Like, do spiders even have ankles?
I don't know, but there'd be 8 of them, right? Like, there'd be a ton of them.
I don't believe they have. Well, hold on. Do spiders have?
All right.
Ankles?
Are we?
I never thought I'd Google
when
it my
are we
life.
Emergency packing? Because this is another
we
thing.
Need it right now.
Is
we
it
need
time?
It right now.
Is it time for emergency pack, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls? Hold on a second. I want to actually insert a sound effect for the emergency pack button. You won't hear it. It'll be in post prod. But I'm taking suggestions as to what you guys want. I'm thinking it might be that famous sound of the not the thermal detonator, the thing that FET drops, that gigantic bomb, the seismic charge.
Right. The drop the bass bomb.
Yeah. Do we want that? Is that going to be our emergency pack button?
The dubstep mine, as I used to call it.
All right. We're doing it. We're popping it. Bink. Let's go.
That was your version.
It's too late. I got really excited. I opened mine.
You opened yours? All right. It's emergency pack, ladies and gentlemen. Ice Cave Radio first. We've been talking about it. I saved the packs. Some people didn't because they had no self-restraint. But
I just lost.
I just held it up and realized no showcase. So I have a Tarkin on the front of mine.
Oh, is the showcase supposed to be in the front?
Because it would be in the leader slot, right?
Yeah, replace the leader. Yeah, that's where the showcase would be. Yeah.
No, I didn't get one.
Is it a hyperspace Tarkin at least?
No. Also, no hyperspace base.
Ooh, no hyperspace base either. So I got a Leia Organa. I've got a.
You're both opening them.
We're all.
I mean, I got excited. So
it was supposed to be everybody. It was supposed to be all 3 of us.
Whoops.
Yeah.
But
Battlefield Marine. Oh, I saw a glimpse of something shiny at the back. That we might have something cool there.
Oh,
it's a Wampa.
Trying to look for like anything cool out of this pack to rescue us out of this.
Very easy. I've realized because of the lack of the black border around hyperspace stuff. Mm-hmm. Like I don't know how well the camera's picking it up, but it's very easy with even just a sliver for you to realize there's a hyperspace something at the back.
That's fine. That just makes it exciting. The anticipation builds,
Well, I got no hyperspaces up through to the rare spot, but I did get Smoke and Cinders.
Okay.
Oh,
right. So I got a hyperspace.
Ooh, that looks really good.
Droid. Man, it actually looks really good with the Hoth
Yeah.
Of course, my camera, it's set to like focus on me, so sadly I can't give like a good zoom in. But
Okay, well, we got rescued in the foil slot. It's not anything super spicy, but it is a hyperspace foil Rebel Pathfinder.
Oh, that's cool.
Which
hey, hyperspace foil is good.
Yeah.
After that, I have a Ghost,
All right.
Cantina
That's good.
Bouncer, Blizzard Assault. Oh,
oh
I had a Legendary.
let's
What is it?
So I
go.
have a Command
Oh, nice.
Hey.
One of my favorites.
and Hyperspace Foil Frontier ATRT.
Oh, cool. All
Is
right.
this
A
one of the
neutral.
3 packs that I gave you to refund you for the 3 packs I borrowed?
Yes.
Okay, so I told you when I gave you those packs, I said
That
there
there was
is
a
a legendary
legendary
in there because
It
out
was
of
a Command.
all the packs I opened, I only got 2 legendaries, and there was like 4 or 5 left, and you own 3 of them. So
I will say, this is another reason why I love draft. During the draft portion of our event, I had 2 very interesting drafts. I had one draft where, and Flake was either next to me or like 1 or 2 seats over, and I showed it to him. But I had one draft where I opened a Luke Skywalker legendary, and then the person that was next to me passed me a foil Obi-Wan. So that was one draft experience. And then the other one was I was sitting next to Jim, and I was not trying to rare draft or value draft or anything, because there was even one point where like literally the last card in the pack I passed him was a rare. It just wasn't a very good rare for limited. So I wasn't like trying to pick him up. And then when I got done, I realized I had something like 2 legendaries and 8 rares or something from the 3 packs. So
the value of draft
yeah.
is
Here,
incredible.
I'll show you. I don't have any things to open, but I'll show you just 2 cool things I did open. Where I got and they're connected too. I have a hyperspace Boba Fett. See if it autofocuses. Oh, there we go.
Those are
Hyperspace
gorgeous.
Boba
I opened
Fett.
a hyperspace Thrawn, and they just look great.
Yeah, the hyperspace leaders do look very good.
Hyperspace
There's
Thrawn
that.
is awesome, actually.
And a hyperspace
Oh,
fire
Oh,
spray. Whoa,
that's fire
whoa.
spray. So you got the pair. Yeah,
Come
your
on.
camera's doing the same thing.
There we go.
I was gonna say,
yeah, there you go.
I thought it
There
was getting auto blurred out because the
at that.
original name of the ship is on there, but
No, but yeah, look at there we go. So that's cool. I really do
that's
like the
gorgeous.
hyperspace treatments. They do look quite good. One more for the road. I did open a hyperspace focus Devastator. Ooh,
must be nice. That
Hyperspace
card is
legendary.
so good.
I don't
Yeah.
have it in front of me, but the big win of the weekend,
There
as
we
you
go.
gentlemen were referring to, if you check my
Nice.
Twitter, I did tweet some photos of it. My big open was the foil.
Wait.
hyperspace.
Oh,
We're gonna
we'll
get
into
there.
that later, right?
We'll get to it. Do you have it offhand?
Or do we want to just go into that right now?
Yeah, let's get into it right now. Actually, that's a good idea.
Do yours.
Let's do that. Yeah, so kick us off because we're going to get into now. I just want to say that there was, I think, 20 or so cards that were left to be revealed when the weekend happened, and as we were all opening them, we were kind of sharing it, and then they became public knowledge. We're not going to go through all 20. Each of us are going to select one of our favorites, and then we're going to have an honorable mention. And Charmer, you, I think, in the first 6 packs in our first sealed, basically won the day between all 3 of us because what you opened was phenomenal.
Yeah, none of us got a showcase, but it was literally like the next best thing because it was a foil hyperspace legendary card, and it was one that we had not seen revealed yet. So that was all like the extra excitement. I didn't even realize it was like foil hyperspace legendary. Like obviously I did, but I was so caught up in like, I need to post this to Twitter because it hasn't been revealed yet. And it's a card that I adore. So I wanted to talk about it, and that is Force Lightning. So I did post some photos to my Twitter if you want to go check it out. The hyperspace treatment, the lightning goes all the way to the edges. It looks gorgeous. But I really like this card because it does something that didn't exist prior to this being revealed anyway. And that's that it's essentially a silence effect if you're coming from games like Hearthstone, The Elder Scrolls Legends, etc. You choose a unit. Well, first of all, it's very cost effective. It costs 1 It's aggression, villainy, has the force tag, obviously, but you choose a unit and then it loses all abilities for the phase. So essentially until end of turn, it's silenced, right? It's just stats. But then when you play Force Lightning on top of it being a silence effect, which is already really, really good, if you control a force unit, you can pay any number of resources and deal 2 damage to the chosen unit for each resource paid this way. So it becomes very cost effective for scaling up in terms of direct damage. When you compare it to, there's cards that cost 3 that deal 4 damage, right? This is basically if you have a force unit and you pay 3, you're going to deal that 4, but also have the silence part, right? So that's a really important piece.
It's a gorgeous card, and I like what you said is the cost efficiency and just the plus the fact that you opened a hyperspace foil legendary that had never been seen before is so great, and like I'm so happy that we got to have that experience. I opened the next card, which is what you want to share. I got to be the first to see this one, which was great, but hit us with yours, DoA. Unless you have, sorry, I'm just jumping ahead here. I don't know if you want to talk about Force Lightning a little more before we get to yours.
No, I think Charmer kind of hit it all. I think it's
sure.
I think it's a great card. If you're playing aggression villainy, it's going to be hard not to include because it's so versatile in terms of cost. You've got some extra resources, like blow something big up. I mean, pay 4 resources, take abilities away, and do 6 damage. Like that's a ton. It's a ton of damage for the cost. So it's a legendary card in every sense. It's great. But we're talking about mine next.
Yeah, let's do it.
Sure. I also picked an aggression card, but mine is aggression heroism. It's the Guerrilla Attack Pod, which is a very interesting card. It's a 4/6 for 6. It has grit, and it has when played, if a base has 15 or more damage on it, ready this unit. So it essentially has like rush or charge or whatever, it can attack the turn it's played, feature to it. And I think it's just a great sort of closing card for something like Sabine. I was running in that deck because you're going to get to a point where it's like, sure, Sabine flips on 4, but you're probably going to want 5 resources to play stuff. And then it's like later in the game, it's like, you know what? I could add another resource in there. And then one of the 2 bases is going to have 15 damage on it. It just will, right? And if you're playing Sabine, it's usually going to be your opponent's pretty quickly. So you drop this, suddenly, you can attack into something and do 4 damage. Obviously, you have to play it, then wait for their action, then do something with it. So they do have a chance to respond. But, against a 4/6, it's tough to remove, especially when you're playing something like Sabine and you theoretically have a wide board already on the ground. But you play this, you can attack base for 4, which is significant at that point in the game. You can attack into one of their things and kill it, and then make your thing even bigger because of grit. So it's even more difficult for them to remove if they want to do it with things on the board. They have to use an event if they want to avoid all this damage from grit, right? So it just becomes, and it's got 6 health, so it's hard to get rid of. So it just becomes this really good late game unit for aggressive decks like that because it's generally going to come into play ready. It's going to, probably give you value pretty much right away, and then it's going to be annoying for your opponent to remove. So I love this as just a closer card for, very low to the ground aggressive decks, and I played it in a couple decks over the weekend. It performed really well, so I'm hoping it'll carry that on to when we see like a fully fleshed out constructed meta in set 1. But I liked it a lot. It was a ton of fun to use.
This card performed very well even when I didn't play it because I told everybody before even going to the weekend that I am pot committed to Emperor Palpatine, and the first game I won all weekend was stealing it with Palpatine when it had a metric ass load of damage on it, and I just sent it for like 8 or 9 at my opponent relentlessly. And they're like, dude, I'm like, stop hitting yourself. That's basically what happened. It was freaking amazing.
Yeah, it can be a 9-1 in theory. So yeah, it can be very scary. Yep.
I really like the card because it does something rather interesting when you are considering it versus, or when you're considering it for draft or sealed versus constructed, because it's very specifically based on damage counters on a base, right? It rewards you for being aggressive, but it also means that it's almost more rewarding and constructed if you assume that your opponent is playing a rare base, because at that point it's just basically a finisher, right? If they have a 25 health base and you've got the 15 damage on their base to get the activation, then it's going to do its job as a closer, right? That's what DoA was talking about. You get to that 6 and you want to either take out a big sentinel. So that's the other nice thing, right? Because it readies, you can use it almost as like removal plus a body that you can then continue to threaten on future turns, right? So it kind of creates 2-for-1 value for you as well. It's a surprisingly effective card.
Yeah, it's only good in I think, like I said, kind of lower to the ground aggressive kind of decks. But in those decks, I think it's like one of the best commons in the set, probably, if I'm being honest. And like I said, it performed really well. I mean, it certainly within limited, it's good. But I also think I would run 3. I think I would run 2 in Sabine, because it does cost 6, so you don't want to be drawing too many of them early on. But I think I would run 2 in a lot of aggressive decks.
My selection, and we're talking about the dinner that we had on Friday, and everybody was so tight-lipped, and everybody had their massive poker faces on. I sat next to Jim Cartwright, who is such a great person. They all were. Everybody that we dealt with and spoke to were so amazing. Jim, I sat next to him at dinner, and we were just chatting, and I didn't want to, pull the Larry King move and just go into the in-depth interviews and whatnot and ask all the hard questions. So I tried to, a couple of glasses of wine in, you're thinking that maybe you can kind of slide one under the door. So I asked Jim, I said, Jim, I'm a control player. Are we ever going to get a wrath effect, a board wipe, a complete reset button? And he kind of looked at me and he said, yeah, that would be cool, wouldn't it? And then we open the Super Laser Blast, an 8-cost event, Vigilance, Villainy. So it plays within that Palpatine range of Vigilance, Command, Villainy. It is and I love this, it's a tactic. Hey, it's a tactic.
It is a tactic. It's not a trick.
It's definitely not a trick.
It's not a trick.
No.
Yep.
But my new favorite tagline, which we're talking about, like, oh, if you would be a character, what would your taglines be? Like rebel, this, that. No, mine would be what this is, a disaster. Which is so awesome, because this is a 8-cost event, Super Laser Blast, a tactic, a disaster, defeat all units across the both lanes, space lane, ground lane. Just obliterate the board. I have been waiting for this. Just waiting for it. Because when you're playing control and ramp, at a certain point, you might get to those, you might get to that 8 cost where you can start deploying Star Destroyers, but the board might be too overpopulated, or one Star Destroyer or one AT-AT just can't handle it. So you hit reset, and then you start dropping the big boys. This card is exactly what I wanted. Exactly what I wanted.
Think about the cost. Are you happy with it being 8?
No, I want it to be 1. Like, I want it to just be, I want it to be free for me only.
In what you know about Star Wars Unlimited now and the flow of a game.
Okay.
Do you feel like it's okay at 8? I think it is, but I'm curious about your opinion as the big control player here.
I think that at 8, I think that's the perfect cost, because I think it's still an expensive card that has obviously a massive effect. And the one thing that I will say that I completely underestimated for this game was how difficult it is to get to 8 resources, 9 resources in the certain scenarios. That was something that obviously now we weren't playing constructed. So if I'm playing control and ramp, I'll have a better tuned deck, but so will my opponent. So I think that it's very tough to get to 8. Like, getting the Emperor out was a huge deal, but it was a very swingy play. I think that on turn 8, if you're wiping the board and dropping the Emperor, I mean, obviously the Emperor you want to steal something with, but like just getting to that point. I think that if it was any cheaper, if this was a 6 or 7 cost, even 7, I'd be like, that might be a little bit much, but you want it to be a little bit overpriced, because you don't want it to be a reliable, easy board wipe. You want to give your opponent a chance to kill you before they hit the reset button.
Yeah, I think it is a good sort of like ripcord to pull if you're down in a game like that. And the thing is if you're playing against an aggressive deck, or even like more of a mid-rangey tempo deck, and you get to resource turn 8 and you wipe the board, like a lot of those more aggressive decks just aren't going to have the gas to build back up again. You know, you're going to be in the driver's seat where, you know, yeah, sure, you do that. You flip the Emperor. You might not be able to steal anyone, but you have somebody with 10 health on the board, right? I think he's got 10. And, you know, they're just not going to remove that unless they're playing, you know, blue as well. And they can, like, vanquish it or something like that. So, you know, or no, does that even work? Am I misremembering that?
Vanquish, I think, is non-leader.
Oh, you're right. It's non-leader. Okay, so what would you, like, I don't know, damage it and then take down or something like that? Yeah, so either way, my point is that it's very difficult to get rid of, right? So, you know, then from then on, you theoretically would still be drawing into more of your removal. You'd be able to handle what they play. So talking about finisher cards, this is a potential finisher for control in that resetting the board at that resource turn gives you a massive advantage. You know, they are just not going to have the cards in hand to establish another board that you're going to be scared of, probably, if all's going well for you. And it kills leaders.
I think that the most difficult piece to judging how effective this card is the timing of it. Because this isn't, again, a game like Hearthstone or Elder Scrolls Legends or anything else where you're taking your entire turn, or even speaking for, you know, Magic the Gathering with Wrath of God, for example. What makes this card difficult is if you are so far behind that you have to use this to pull the ripcord, right? And you blow up the board. If your opponent even just has like their 2 cards that they drew in hand for the turn, if you didn't get them to at least play one of them, they're still going to play something. What you do have available is, you know, you could play this and then potentially, depending on what they do or how many cards they have in hand, etc., you could take the initiative and then you'll have first opportunity to respond to whatever it is they followed up with after you've played this. But if you're in any sort of situation where your opponent has like 3 or 4 cards in hand and they have any amount of resources whatsoever, this actually becomes pretty risky depending on your own health totals. There's a lot of nuance that goes into this. And I think that's the reason that I enjoy the card. I think that the cost is appropriate because it's at a cost where it makes the decision interesting as opposed to automatic. It's not like, oh, I'm playing control. The moment I hit 8, I slap this. Yeah. And then I'm good, right? Like that's not necessarily going to be the case. So I really dig it. I like the way that this was implemented, and I do think that the cost is appropriate.
Good evaluation. We do have a communal honorable mention that we all agreed was definitely worth talking about, and I was introduced to this card when DoA played it against me and really ruined my day.
Surprise.
Yeah, so DoA, by all means, please explain to everybody why and how you ruined my day.
I pulled this one and I was very happy I did it because it's a great card. It costs 5. It's another aggression card. It's called Bombing Run. It's a tactic. And you choose an arena, ground or space, deal 3 damage to each unit in that arena. So that includes your units too, which is obviously something to keep in mind. But as we've sort of discovered, 3 damage to a unit is a significant amount of damage to most units. And you know, this is a way to maybe sort of like take back the advantage, or at least even the odds if you're playing, you know, like aggressive versus aggressive kind of thing. If they have a much wider board and you don't, sure, whatever, I'll kill my unit to kill 4 of your units, and then we're both kind of starting from square one again, that kind of thing. I think it's useful. Excuse me. It's useful in certain situations where you're trying to, you know, take out a larger board over time. To, you know, we mentioned takedown a moment ago. That's any unit with 5 health or lower. So say you have a big 8 health thing you're annoyed with, you play this. One turn, you theoretically take a couple things out and you damage that, and then the next turn you come in with takedown and finish it off. That's another means of getting back into a game. But there's going to be a lot of situations where, you know, something is going to be bigger, but it's going to be 3 health or lower. They're going to feel safe, and they're going to die to this. So I think it's going to be a card that you put at least maybe a couple on the sideboard. I don't know if it's quite a main board card in a lot of decks, but I could definitely see it showing up in sideboards here and there. But good card regardless.
It's a good point to make. We have to start thinking about sideboards. This is in my opinion precisely that, a sideboard card, or it's like you main board 1 maybe, and you maybe sideboard 2 more in case you're running into a lot of low to the ground nonsense.
Confiscate. Everyone should put confiscate in their sideboards. It's just too good.
It is too good. But ultimately,
this is the other thing people don't realize. Shield tokens and experience tokens are upgrades.
Yes.
You can use confiscate to get rid of shields and get rid of experience. So, again, if you've got an opponent that's stacking a bunch of that kind of stuff, confiscate can help you out.
It does help, especially when you do something like there's a card that I forgot what colors it's in, but ultimately it's a defeat all. Weapons malfunction or something like that, or it's like defeat all upgrades. Yeah, and think about
failure.
Power failure. It might be power failure. But think about it this way: if something is taking damage and it has experience points, and you remove the experience points, it maintains the damage, and it might just die. So it might get defeated. So I think that's a great sideboard card as well. But think about this card alongside something with grit, like that can survive it. You just blow up a bunch of stuff on the board. The other thing that you have on the board that has grit now just gets better on the attack. Pretty solid card. I like sweepers, man. Like as a control player, sweepers are what you need.
I play my gorilla attack pod, and then the next turn I use bombing run, and my pod's suddenly swinging for 7 with 3 health remaining itself. Yeah, I'm feeling pretty good.
You bombing run it twice just to establish dominance.
Well, no, then it dies. So
that's what I'm saying.
Don't do that.
You did your work. Congratulations. Sometimes you just
I would have 10 resources, and I would already lose at that point. So.
I like this card. I can't wait to see this card in hyperspace foil.
Oh, that's gonna look so good.
Oh yeah, that will look neat.
The Hoth cards look great in hyperspace. Oh my god, I got myself I drafted, I think, a hyperspace foil snowspeeder. Oh god, just gorgeous. Look, let's.
Here you can see this. Focus there.
Echo base.
We'll get it. Yeah, Echo base, hyperspace.
Beautiful.
It's really nice. And also the thing with the base is because they're double side token cards, you get a hyperspace XP token or shield too. So that's kind of neat. Yeah.
Hyperspace, Echo base, in your face.
Okay.
This is neither the time nor place.
Oh my god.
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
No,
I'm not. Who am I kidding?
I know you're not. No.
I'm not.
All right. Let's move on to the main topic of conversation, my friends, which is it's the celebrational that I think I don't know if that's the official name of it, but ultimately this past
Community
weekend.
Celebration.
Bingo.
Was the official name.
So the community celebration held by FFG in Minneapolis, hosted by Wisdom Gaming at the Mall of America, a wonderful, awesome event. Outside of the cool people at FFG that we got to meet, the great, be it Xander or Jim or Danny Schaefer or Tyler Parrott or my goodness, Jeremy Zwern, Serena. We got to meet Christina. We got to meet a whole bunch of amazing people there. It's the everybody else aspect, and we'll get to the gameplay and we'll talk about that. But I really want to open this up because last week we were talking as a primer to this, saying like these types of events are so great because this kind of sets the tone for the community, and the community really sets the tone for the game. And FFG was very well aware of the fact that there's a lot of the game's success that rides on us, on you who's listening to this, and the spirit in which you support the game. This was an event wherein everybody who showed up, it wasn't an adversarial thing. It wasn't like we're all fighting for a limited piece of pie in terms of opportunity or content or whatever. Everybody was there to uplift everyone else and just kind of hold hands and walk into the sunset of the sunrise of this game is, because the sunset's not the right word, but just kind of like mosey on into this brand new game, this brand new frontier, and let's all experience the joys of opening these packs for the first time together. And like you said, with the first pack opened was a showcase Krennic, and everybody cheered. Everybody was just exasperated with joy. And then behind us was a showcase Palpatine. And then Charmer opens the hyperspace foil legendary of a card we've never seen. Everybody was on board to just have fun. And beyond that, it's like, let's go. We're going for coffee. We meet up with some other people who are also. We're sitting down. We're talking. We're talking shop after the fact. Staying up till 3 or 4 in the morning, drafting cards in the lobby. Not just us. The FFG crew were like, we're here until you guys shut us down because we want to be here. We've been dying to show you this game. As much as we are dying to play it, they have just been sitting there stewing, saying, we cannot wait for you guys to experience what we've been experiencing. And there we were, opening those packs for the first time. And it was reminiscent of when, for me at least, when Special Edition came out for Star Wars CCG, which was, I think, the first new set that I had ever played of that game. And I was like looking through the cards. Wow. And keep in mind, there was no online spoilers that I had access to back then. So every pack I opened was this brand new thing. And there was cards I had never seen, cards I'd never heard of. It was surreal to be around that. And again, it all comes down to that bedrock, that foundation that we're setting, which is positivity, collaboration, just all wanting to pull or push in the right direction. And I thought that was great.
I printed out a lot of decks and played a good amount of this game before we went, because I can't help myself. But going there, I even had like 3 printed out decks like that I brought with me that we were playing with the night before the event and everything. But when you're actually there with all these other people and we talked to a lot of them, and a lot of them had played some of the older Star Wars card games. A lot of them had played a lot of other card games, so there was just a lot of kindred spirits there. Big Star Wars fans, which is great. And so then being there in this room with everybody, everyone's opening packs together, and there's no element of serious competition with this too. I really like that they didn't try to crown a winner for the weekend or any of that stuff. It was just purely, hey, here's some packs, open them up and play with them, and that really, I think, led to just a lot of really fun times, right? Where everyone's like, oh, look what I got. I got this hyperspace this, and like, oh, look, this deck I made. And yeah, it was just a ton of fun, and I like you said, the whole development team was there for the game, and other people from Fantasy Flight were there as well, and they were just very accessible and just would hang out and chat with you, which was great. So it was just a really nice kickoff, and a little nice show of appreciation for the people that have been promoting the game and making content for it, and even though it's not even out yet, and yeah, a great and all around. Purely nerd out for a couple days,
I have been I've been thinking a lot about the experience there. First, I want to give a shout out, like DoA was saying, to some of the other creators, because they were all fantastic. Everyone that we talked to obviously is very enthusiastic about the game, but they were also just wonderful people, whether it was Main Deck Dan or the TCG cast crew. I talked to some of the Johto cast crew, Saga, just
garbage rollers.
Garbage rollers, just a bunch of people in the space, and they were all as amazing as you would expect. But for me, I've been struggling to come up with the right way to articulate it, because I keep coming back to what an important weekend it was for FFG, because the reality is, and we don't dance around it here, but the reality is they know just as much as we all know that they have a reputation as far as their games being supported long term. We've all had those conversations with our own LGSs or other card game players where it's like, hey, there's this really cool game and it's Star Wars and you should check it out. And they say, well, it's FFG, right? And if you were trying to reinforce what they've already been communicating, because I keep going back to what I was saying, which is, if I was plotting a TCG release myself, everything that they're doing is all the stuff that I would want to do, right? Their marketing's been fantastic. The choices they've made for organized play, the choices they've made for how the game is designed, it's very clear it's all done by card game players. But if you were trying to kind of really showcase, hey, we are committed to this game more than we have ever been for any of these projects in the past, I think a weekend like what they just had is exactly what was needed, because they didn't have to, rent the Wisdom Studios or partner with them or whatever, whatever it was they did to get that production value, because it was a very well produced stream. It was a fantastic space. The event was phenomenal. They didn't have to bring in a bunch of content creators before the launch of the game. they didn't have to do any of these things. And a few people even asked Flake and I, they said, hey, you guys have done a bunch of events. Have you ever done anything like this? And we thought about it, and we've done a lot of events. Like, we've done in-person stuff, in studio stuff. We've done, year anniversaries. Flake obviously just did the big 5-year thing for Flesh and Blood in New Zealand, but I've never been a part of something like this before the launch of a game. And to me, it just really reinforced that this is not going to be a quick flash in the pan for FFG, that they have put thought and time and energy. And like, we know this, and it was even more apparent. So I will also say, if you ever want to question somebody's passion about this, just have a chat with Jim.
Oh, because God, I was about to say
him and his wife, they've got Star Wars Unlimited tattoos already, but even if that wasn't enough, like, you just have to listen to Jim talk about this game, and it just resonates with you. Like, this is not just, oh, I'm doing this because it's my job. Like, this was birthed out of just sheer passion for the genre, meaning card games, and the Star Wars universe from those people. And so, like I said, I've been struggling to really find the right way to articulate the impression that it made on me, but also why I feel like it's so important for FFG that they went and did this as well. And it was good.
Yeah, I mean, that we all hear the same thing where it's like, oh, well, Fantasy Flight has no trouble at all making good games. The problem is having them go for, more than a few years, right? Which is a valid criticism. I played the Legend of the Five Rings LCG, and I love that, and it ended before I would have liked it to. I think a lot of other people would agree, but they have really gone out of their way with this game in particular to do things like what you're talking about, that we were all at this last weekend, and talk about long-term support for this game specifically. They've said publicly before that they're already into like 7, 8, something like that, sets that they're developing. I forget what the exact number is, but far in advance, multiple years in advance. So the plan is to go long-term. I've talked to Xander a couple times, and he told me this was the first time they had a community manager for any of their games too. So, that's a big hire if you are really trying to establish something that's going for a long time. So, obviously time will tell with all of this, but for those of us that are excited about this, there's a lot of good indicators that, they are in it for the long haul, and things are going to go for a long time. And most importantly, above everything else, is that the game is good. If the game was bad, then none of this would matter, right? But it turns out the game is actually a very good, challenging, competitive card game. So, that's that. You need that to do anything else, and they've got that. So that alone kind of gives me a lot of hope for this. But, I think we've got a lot of years ahead of us of this podcast.
Yeah, and that's, obviously from our perspective, it's nice to know that this doesn't have an expiry date on it, like almost like predetermined. It's not like branded into it like a carton of milk. It's just something along the lines of, like you mentioned, they're planning stuff, like they're in the early developments for like 2027. Like they've got, that's how far ahead they're already kind of working on the first sort of structure of what's coming down the pipe. They've already announced or leaked some of the stuff coming for the next set. They've showed us The Mandalorian, and they've showed us Moff Gideon, which is really cool. Just the artworks, none of the actual mechanics.
Yeah.
But like Charmer mentioned, and like you say, every conversation I've had was not them trying to sell us the game. It was them saying, we're just having so much fun with this. We're so into this. It was them expressing their experiences with the game, which in turn kind of instilled a lot of confidence. And at the foundational, at the base level, is exactly what you say, DoA. It is a effing good game. It's so good. If this was, look, as a Montreal Canadiens fan, if this was a Toronto Maple Leafs game, I would still play it. And that says a lot. Okay, I don't know.
The mechanics are sound, yeah.
Well, that's what I'm saying, is at the bedrock of this game, there's a core foundational rule set that makes the game fun, strategic. I don't want to say like ultra swingy, but there's so many epic moves that you can make to make every game feel like something cool has happened. Whether it was you bombing running me out of nowhere and me being surprised, or me Emperor Palpatining the guerrilla attack pod to basically change the dynamic of that game and go from having 3 health left to winning that game. There's so much at the core of this game that is appealing, and the struggle for me has been, like you said, Charmer, is convincing people that this is something that they should invest their time in. And it's tough because nobody has a lot of time, especially when they're already invested in another TCG. But it comes down to it where you're like, I get it. Just give it a chance. Give it a try. But I also understand. And to me, my response after I'll wait and see is, yeah, you will wait and see. And you will see. And I don't want to sound too cocky. Don't get cocky. But I want to just really fast forward a year and ask the people who kind of didn't jump on now and be like, do you regret not jumping on? And see like where the game's at that point, and see how much the player base is built. Because like I said earlier on, it's been a struggle to have SCG recognize the game, but on an even smaller scope, it has been incredibly difficult to find places in Toronto to run weeklies. I had to really squeeze the juice out of some of these LGS owners and communities to be like, just do one weekly. And if you don't have like 16 people show up, you can rethink it, but nobody's taking the bait. One store in Toronto, 401 Games, is doing it, but none of the smaller brick and mortar shops are doing it. 401 is like a bigger box store brand kind of. There's a few of them, but those smaller, like the Hairy Tarantulas, the whatever, like they're not doing it, and it really sucks. But at the same time, I'm just gonna go to the places that run it, and we start there. And that to me is like, we plant the seed there, and then we let it grow.
Yeah, there you go. And it's good because I think the thing that people will realize is that it's not good because it's Star Wars. It's good because it's good. And the fact that it's Star Wars is additive to it, which is, how theoretically every Star Wars, product should be. But this is important. I was so worried because I was excited about this game, and I was so worried. I was like, oh, what if it's bad? Then that'd be so disappointing because I've always loved Star Wars card games in particular, and I'm like, oh, I just don't want it to be bad. And I was so relieved when I finally played it, and I got into it and kind of like learned the mechanics a bit better, and I was like, oh, thank goodness, it's actually a good game. and yeah, it just kept getting more interesting to play. So I feel like this leads us into our next little topic, mailbag-esque question kind of thing, because it's on that note, No,
that's a good time to throw this in here. Our good friend Greg at Darth Prentice asks, how does the gameplay feel? Did it meet expectations? Did it exceed them? Charmer, I'm going to ask you first, or you can answer this one first. And again, we're all friends of Greg here. Greg's a great dude, very well known within the Flesh and Blood community. But you played probably that weekend more than anybody, Charmer. So how did it feel for you?
I mean, I was certainly trying to play more than anybody. I was hunting for games, and I mean, I was hunting for games for a reason. It was a lot of fun. It plays as smooth as I expected. To answer Greg specifically, I would say it's as nice as it is to spend time with Greg, which is the highest of compliments. Yeah, the gameplay it was nice because it was very intuitive. It was one of those things where all weekend long, you could see people still kind of taking their time, thinking things through, because it's not to the point where the game is like on autopilot, but there weren't really any that I can think of. Maybe one time where anybody had to stop and be like, how does this work? Or does anybody know? Right? Mm-hmm. Because it's just well designed foundationally. And then even so, DoA and I had a couple of games where we suddenly had to speed up our pace, right? Because we were trying to get something done before either the next event or before food or whatever. And we found it pretty easy to do, right? Like we took our time, we were thinking things through, but then when we needed to pick it up, it was also like, okay, we can do this, and everything still felt smooth. So the gameplay experience was just, it was everything you want, right? Easy to learn, will be hard to master, and has good bones.
Yeah, I've talked about, I think, kind of everything I like about the game previously, but just to sort of recap a lot of that, because like I said, I'd played plenty of games of this before the weekend. I hadn't played with the actual cards, but I'd played a lot, and the things I like about this game are, I think there's a great diversity in deck building. You can make significant arguments, I think, as far as like which aspect to pair with which leader and all that, and it it becomes a stylistic choice as much as this is the good deck, basically. So I think deck building in this game, especially once the card pool continues to increase, is going to be really fascinating to track, and there's going to be a lot of variety. The other thing I like is I really like that there's no turns. I like that there's essentially, a regroup phase where you do kind of bookkeeping stuff, and then there's the action phase where you pass actions back and forth. And like that style of gameplay, where you can't just be like, here's my turn. Blah, it's like 6 cards and big combos that you can't do anything about and all that. It's there are fun aspects to that style of gameplay, but I really like the more, and chess-like is an overused term, but chess-like aspect of this, where it's like I do something, you do something, and then I respond, you respond, and it really does make you, when you start playing this game, you're going to be thinking a couple moves ahead. After you've played this game for a while, you're going to be starting to think 3 or 4 turns ahead. And really trying to sculpt your hand to respond well, anticipate what they're doing, and that type of gameplay leads to really, really interesting decision-making questions, and just like paves a lot of opportunities for really to see very smart things, which all 3 of us are commentators. We like watching good players do smart things. It excites us, and it gives us fun things to talk about on the broadcast. And I think the because of the way the action system works in this game, that gives you a lot of opportunities for it. So I think it's going to be a very watchable game as well, which as a commentator, excites me, right? So there's I like pretty much every aspect of this game. The fact that you draw 2 every turn because you have to put 1 down as a resource means you have a lot of flexibility in what your hand looks like. You can go through your deck very quickly, which is good. So yeah, I mean, I could go on, but I've talked a lot about it. But those things are kind of the main points about what I really like about this game, and it feels very good. Like Charmer was saying, it's very easy to sit down and teach somebody how to play this game. Like I've said before, there's a lot of non-card text depth to it, which means that the cards themselves, like ambush isn't complicated, restore isn't complicated, like that type of thing, what the cards do on their card text isn't terribly complicated, but the decision making around how you use those cards has an enormous amount of depth that you can choose to engage with, and I love that that's there. So yeah, I think it's the very good classic, easy to pick up, very difficult to master. So yeah, it's a very good card game. As someone who's played card games since 1995, I guess almost, what is that, like 29 years now or something like that? Yeah,
we're approaching the 30. When I write the description for this show, I talk about how we have a cumulative 75 years of card gaming,
sure,
history and knowledge and wisdom or whatever. But ultimately, that's going to have to get pumped up soon to like 90 cumulative years.
I mean, it is having played a lot of card games, and I will really try any card game out there at least once, and this is definitely among the best I've played. So it's very exciting.
All right, so the feel part, you guys talked about the gameplay. I'm not gonna harp on that. It definitely exceeded expectations, and the one thing I'll note is that for the first 8 games I played, I got spanked. I got absolutely demolished, but I was having a blast getting demolished. I got beaten convincingly in the first 6 or 7 games I played, but it was
by
fun.
Me mostly.
Yes, well, it was you definitely have some notches that you have that are according to me. But I was so dead set on playing Palpatine and winning with Palpatine. I ended by beating Jeff. I think I beat was it the OP guy. Oh my god, it's Jeff, right?
I believe
Josh.
Josh Massey. Yes.
Josh Massey.
I beat Josh
Marketing
Massey 30-0, and I did so with Jeremy Zwern behind me, not saying anything, merely at the end of it said, "You played that really damn good." He's like, "You're my Padawan now." I was like,
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
I'm Jeff Zwern's
Great.
Padawan. Yeah, it felt
High
good.
praise.
But what I will say is what felt amazing is opening these damn packs, because it was, besides just rifling through and finding the rares, you are looking for those hyperspace cards, which they might be the base, it might be the leader, it might be something, you might get one in the back, it might be the foil. Opening and going through the packs was just so, like, I have not had that much fun opening packs since God knows when. Like, and full transparency, the fact that they're paper packs just makes them that much more satisfying. I love opening Flesh and Blood packs, but this exceeds that experience. This 100% exceeds the experience. And to just close this out, I have been very adamant that I am not a vanity player. I'm not a foils type of collector. I'm not the type of person that wants to keep those. I will always trade them down for extra value. Not this game, mofos. I have made the decision that I have a binder and I want every hyperspace foil, okay? I want every freaking hyperspace foil. That is the mission. That's what we're going for. And I cannot believe that they got me hook, line, and sinker with this stuff, but the cards look so freaking good.
It is very cool that like every slot has a chance to have a hyperspace version of it.
Oh God,
And
yeah. Look at this.
For me,
thing.
I've always been like, oh, alt arts, yeah, that's a great way to get more cards I actually want to use. I've always been the type to like trade and sell all my alt arts because I'm like, well, I can build more decks if I do this. But yeah, this game, like, I know I'm gonna find like a deck that I really like that I'm gonna try to go full hyperspace with. It just, the cards look too good. It's cool.
They look beautiful.
Yeah.
All right, Charmer. So Charmer, let's say you just played Sabine, you played all of your heroism, aggression, you're even playing that hyperspace chopper that I opened the other day that I traded to you. You got all of them on the board, you're feeling good, life is just a big bowl of chocolates for some reason. And then I hit 8 resources. I have initiative. And I say, I will use all 8 resources to play Super Laser Disaster Tactic Extraordinaire Blast Sauce. What do you say to that?
I say I'm as dead as Jeff. And also I have a bad feeling about this.
I got a bad feeling about this.
I have a bad feeling about this.
I've got a bad feeling about it.
Quiet.
All right, so we have a pretty robust bad feeling mailbag, and we are so hyped, so thankful and grateful for everybody's support. Our Discord is booming, which is incredible.
Yeah.
That
Great conversation going on in there.
A lot of people are in there having great chats about Star Wars Unlimited, about Star Wars media, about non-Star Wars media. We're having chats about wrestling, which I love. If we don't get to all the questions, we will roll them over. So we're going to try to get to as many as we can. But the fact that everybody is writing us at icecaveradio@gmail.com or sending them in the Discord into the question channel, thank you. Legitimately thank you, because this has gone better than my wildest dreams. So we appreciate all of you. Who wants to pick the first question?
I was just going to start at the top. I don't know.
That's a good place to start.
Yeah.
Go for it.
We should do one. Actually, I take it back. We should do the question in here that is from our Discord first.
Good call.
To
Yes.
incentivize people from using the Discord.
Yes.
Or to use the Discord.
Well,
Yeah.
and eventually when we have a Patreon, it'll go Patreon,
Oh, yeah. There
Discord,
you go. Yeah.
email. Get to the...
That's
Okay,
right.
good call. So, all right, let's go with that one first.
Gotta get the babysitters for DoA. Yep. So, our question from Discord. Not that I need babysitting, but my child does. Anyway, maybe I do. Maybe I do sometimes. Anyway, I digress. Let's move on to the Discord question. Question for Flake, DoA, and Charmer. There's no comma, so it's almost like Flake DoA is one name.
Correct.
And then Charmer is a separate one.
Yeah.
So that's happening. From Captain J-Rod, the level of production of the community was huge. the impression that FFG Fantasy Flight Games is all in on this game. Yes. So my question is, when a company invests on a level like this for a game, what level of success mirroring other TCGs does SWU have to hit? What do you think will be the breaking point for this and any TCG for the company to call it quits? Interesting. Okay, so I think they mean like, what do you think would make them? I'm okay. We'll break this question down later once I read it all. Last from the stream, I saw little to none of the female content creators on the stream. You are all in the card game community. What are you female counterparts saying about SWU? Okay, so there's a lot to unpack in there. So we'll start with what level of success it sounds like for investment for the broadcaster, because they talked about level of production for community was huge.
I think
so. I'm going to take. So, well, how do you interpret this one? This one ended up being more complex than I expected it would be.
So the way that I interpret this question is, I think what they're saying is it's clear that they're investing a lot into the game based on the production and everything else and the whole hoopla of this weekend. What level of success does this have to hit for them to be like, hey, this was worth it. Let's keep going and let's. I guess comparing it to maybe another TCG, in my opinion, I mean, I'm trying to think of TCGs that have rather, I don't want to say timid amounts of success, but ultimately, like for example, Flesh and Blood is a big deal. I don't think that this game is going to approach Flesh and Blood for a while, but I think it has the potential to approach Flesh and Blood. I think that this is certainly a game that can have a U.S. national championship of 400 qualified players. That and all the side events are just bumping and buzzing. I think that it doesn't need to hit that level. I think that this game will never hit Magic level, but I think that if it doesn't, I don't think it needs to. I don't think any TCG needs to hit that level. But I think that this is a card game that can rival Flesh and Blood because it plays so differently. It's a completely different IP, and it has the capability that if they want to invest what Flesh and Blood's investing, which is a big ask, I just today published an episode about the finances and the investment and like the business side of what LSS is doing with their game and what they're committing to it. This is another potential Flesh and Blood type of game that can attain that, in my opinion. Do they need to? No. I think that they can. But comparing it to another TCG and saying, hey, this is the minimum we have to do, I don't think they're thinking that way. I think that they're thinking of it from a perspective of a lot of people are playing this game. There's a lot of positive buzz around it. We're going to stick with this for at least 4 or 5 years and then reevaluate. And I think that that's where they're at. It's a very tough question to ask from that perspective, to answer from that perspective.
I'm going to use this excuse to talk about broadcast production, since that's my area of expertise. And they did say production. So I'll weave this question into that side of things real quick, where I would just like to see production around tournaments that takes the time to create content to fill space between games. Because sure, we all love gameplay, but I think making sure that we have at least one person at each event going around and getting interviews with the players, who knows how to get the human side of the story, because there's so many players that like work so hard to like get where they get to in card games and all that, and everyone has such a unique story, and I want that to come out on broadcast more. I want there to be more star building, because ultimately, like, yeah, like plays in a video game or in a card game or in a traditional sport are cool, but like people aren't fans of plays, they're fans of players. They're fans of the people, the human beings, right, that are playing these. So highlighting the human side of the game, I think is something that really needs to be done, frankly, better in a lot of TCGs. And I think this one has a chance to do it. And it comes down to like, are the resources allocated properly when we get to like tournament broadcasts to make that happen? And I hope it does, because I think it'd be great. I think, just like with any other card game, you could get a lot of cool content things going. To address the other part of the question where, why weren't there a lot of female content creators shown on stream? The answer to that, I think, is there just wasn't really many of us at all shown on stream. I think each sort of group was given like one person that could be part of like an on-stream portion of that. So I think that's kind of largely the reason. The other reason is that there were just many more men than women there. That's just kind of how it is in the TCG situation, the content, scene right now in general. And like, obviously it's on us guys, and I'm especially talking to younger guys out there that maybe are not approaching their gaming with as much maturity as they should be, to make sure that there's a spot at the table for girls who want to game with you. You know, they are just trying to learn the game and play their best just like you are. So if we want to see more representation in the scene, whether it's women, whether it's other groups that we don't see as much of, that's on us to make sure that there's always a spot at the table, and we're, you know, treating them the same as we treat any other gamer. So hopefully we will see, you know, more in the future. And coming from esports, this is something obviously that we've been, you know, addressing for a long time. And I think the card game community, you know, has that too, right? Where it's like, these are games that can be enjoyed equally by anyone. There is no physical barrier of any kind that should exist in card gaming or just gaming in general, frankly. So yeah, I think if that's something you want to see more of, then make it happen. You know, that's on all of us to make sure that those opportunities are there and that those people are welcomed. So yeah, let's do that.
One piece that I think I want to piggyback on is I do like the idea of having a presence, whether it's somebody doing interviews or some pre-filmed things that builds player profiles. I think that's really important. But one of the things I kind of realized after I went to the Flesh and Blood World Championships in Barcelona this past year is that I don't think that enough is done to showcase the spectacle of the large scale events outside of whatever the primary tournament is as well. So yeah, I love player profiles and I love finding out what makes people tick and learning about cool quirks they have and what their favorite characters are. I don't want to stop any of that, but I keep thinking about like how much fun I had at that World Championship, even though I wasn't there for the actual event. I was just there for side events, right? And this is going to be a game where we know, because Josh has said it on stream, that the organized play, the bigger events are going to have side events and they're going to have prize walls and all of those things. He's said that is definitely an emphasis for them. But also, this is Star Wars. So there's going to be people in costume and there's going to be other weird side events. And I would like to see some of that stuff covered as well, even if it's not like, hey, you have a dedicated time slot. You know, I think about, again, like that World Championship for Flesh and Blood. There's no reason that some of those like interviews with James White or some of that stuff with the professor couldn't have been interwoven into the breaks for the rounds. I think that if you're trying to sell people on how much fun TCGs can be, you kind of have to showcase that it's, yes, absolutely about the top end play, but also you can just have fun showing up, right? I think that's a great thing to highlight, and I would love to see some of that worked into broadcasts somehow in the future.
Well, what I've noticed is there's sort of this like catch-22 when it comes to broadcasting these kinds of events, where they're like, well, our viewership isn't very big, so we're not going to invest very much in that. And then because they don't invest very much in that, their viewership never grows. So it's I think there's, you have to do one before the other happens, right? You have to put a little bit of extra money into the viewing experience before people are like, oh, hey, I should watch this, or people start telling their friends, hey, you should really watch the stream. There's a lot of cool content there, or they start clipping it and sharing content with each other, you know. And the thing is like some of these big events, they're spending like hundreds of thousands of dollars, you know, as far as bringing the artists in, getting the venue, getting all the stuff set up, you know, the props, all the spaces, the side events. Like, you don't need to spend all that much more to improve your broadcast a lot. Compared to everything else that's already being spent there, spend a few thousand more on like hiring one more talent, getting one more, you know, camera to go around and collect stuff, right? Go talk to the artists, go talk to one of the vendors and be like, what's the rarest, coolest card you have? And let's showcase it and talk about it. Like, you know, it would not take that much more of an investment than what exists already to provide a lot more content that would increase the level of the productions greatly. So it's always frustrated me that we aren't seeing that happen. Like, and you know, will we see it happen here? I hope so. But you could do a lot with very little, you know.
Imagine even just interweaving like fun comedic experiences that also highlight what I consider to be part of like the big event experience. So imagine we give Flake a microphone.
Oh, gosh.
And in between rounds, he starts with a TIE fighter.
Oh.
And he continues to trade throughout the day, and we see where he ends up, and we just track him on the breaks, right? Like it's just the check-in. Hey, Flake, how you doing? And it cuts to him like at a booth or at a table trading with somebody, and he's like, oh, I'm up to an Imperial Walker or whatever, right? And doesn't have to take up a ton of time, but it's one of those nice things that just highlights one of the things that you see happen at these events and makes it fun. I would like to see, some of that just kind of in general. I think that would help sell the experience that I think some folks are missing out on, because what I've been thinking about is there's a lot of folks that play games casually and then they are intimidated to make the jump to some of these larger events. This is a game where I fully expect casual audiences to be drawn in part because it's easy to pick up, and in part because it's Star Wars, and also because there's, younger audiences. I've signed up for pre-releases already, and I'm taking my son, and he's super excited, right? And as I think about like bridging the gap for that, I think that, again, if you can show people, hey, you can go to these big tournaments and still have a good time, even if you're not the most competitive person, like that's an important thing to showcase in my mind.
Yeah.
All right. Well, the trading up thing, we did that. DM Armada and I did that at US Nats 2022 in Charlotte, I think it was. We took a cracked bauble, which is like a token, and we traded it all the way up to. We spent like I think 2 days doing this. And we traded all the way up to like a box of Uprising and a bunch of other random Majestics. We literally just set up a booth that said, let's make a deal. And that was the first thing we had on the table. And people were like, I'll trade you this like foil rare for that cracked bauble, but you guys have to sign it. We're like, okay. So we signed it, we traded it up, then we had that. And we kept going, and then people, it just, there was a buzz that went around. But yeah, it was like a fun little thing. We were tweeting about it, and what's the best part about it is that when we got all the way up to all these Majestics and all this other stuff and the box of Uprising, we went to go find the dude who gave us the original cracked bauble, and we're like, to reward him, we're like, here's a box of Uprising. We could not find the dude. We could not. Our objective was to basically give that dude, that initial person who donated us the cracked bauble for funsies, to reward him and say, you started this is yours.
That's awesome. We
put out the SOS. We could not find the dude. So we ended up basically ripping the box open and giving packs away to people. It was a lot of fun. We have like 5 or 6 questions, but I think we're going to probably have to just push them down the assembly line. We're going to ask a couple quick ones. This one from Main Deck Dan. My question, at what point in the draft do you pick a foil Ardent Sympathizer? And does Hyperspace Foil change that number? I was offered. I absolutely was passed a Ardent Sympathizer foil. I picked it. It wasn't in my colors. It had nothing to do with anything that I was actually doing.
It's the way.
But we took it. So, and if it was a Hyperspace foil, pack one, pick one. I don't care what the hell else is in that pack. That's the move. Easy.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, like, honestly, Unlimited, it's not a bad card. It's 3 for 3/3 plus 2 attack if you have initiative. So it's like if you're building something that's kind of aggressive in the red vein, and you want something that's a little bit mid-rangey as far as that goes. It's not bad. You could certainly do worse than a 3 for 3.
Plus, I mean, let's be real. The death sentence in like 8 different systems. So.
Yeah, I mean, he's just a happy-go-lucky murder machine, that Ardent Sympathizer.
All right, let's do one more, and then we'll wrap it up, and we'll sort of push the rest to the next episode. This one from John Franey. How do y'all balance being invested mentally and financially? That's a big one. In so many TCGs, have you ever been tempted to double down on just one? What keeps you in so many? For me, I mean, a lot of it is career-oriented. That this is basically where I've put all my... I'm lucky enough to say that my hobbies and my career are so intertwined that I have the time and the capability to not just invest in 1 or 2 card games, but many. This is just one that has immediately shot up to probably the top, if not the numbers, like it's up there with Flesh and Blood in terms of every single ounce of my attention. I think that this game is exceptional, and I mean, I'm a fan of diversifying my portfolio. I don't want to be known as the Flesh and Blood guy. I want to be known as the card game guy, and that's kind of part of it.
Yeah, I think for me, like the financial side of it, I just, like I said, I tend to trade away all my alt arts for more cards. So I think you can buy a box or two and make that go a long way. And you know, some people don't like doing that. Some people like to hold on to that stuff. I just like having a greater breadth of decks to play when I want to. That's my priority. So, you know, thankfully I can use alt art cards that I crack in packs from a few boxes to do that, and not have to spend a whole lot. Man, especially with like a kid. Now it's like I don't look at like dollars in my bank account. I look at boxes of diapers, you know? So it's like, yeah, as economical as possible, please. So yeah, that's what I do. But also, as far as like the number of games being involved in, like I just love systems. Like that's what I really discovered over the years when I love, because I bounced between a lot of different esports and in my professional career and card games too. I played pretty much every card game that's out there. And I just really enjoy learning new gaming systems and then learning about the people that really push those systems to the extreme. It's just a really fascinating topic for me to just dive into and study. And that's what keeps me going for like new games and learning new things and all that. And I do have games that I really like stick on for a while, and I prioritize those above other ones. Flesh and Blood's a great example of that. That's kind of how the three of us got to know each other, is through Flesh and Blood, and that was a game that really grabbed my interest and still has it, you know. But I think more than anything, what gets me to try it is that just love of gaming systems to begin with. So that's the reason why I play so many.
Yeah, I would just echo that wholeheartedly. Yeah, I think about doubling down on just one game all the time. I just know that I won't be able to. I love card games. I have my entire life. I love board games of all shapes and sizes. I just like games because, much like DoA, I like systems, but I also really like when somebody has an idea and they have this either story they want to tell or whatever the case may be with their game, and then they create systems to make the flavor match the function. And I just really enjoy like dissecting that. So like I've never done professional game design. I've done QA testing and stuff like that. But I would consider myself like a, amateur hobbyist game designer, or just somebody who really appreciates good game design, because I'm always looking at learning new games and kind of dissecting what makes them tick. That's really what it comes down to. At the end of the day, I like to learn new things. And the best way to do that is by playing new games. As far as being like mentally invested, it's also pretty easy. Once you get into a rhythm of dissecting games, you can pick them up pretty quickly. All of us here, we do commentary and coverage. And so learning games and watching other people and learning from watching other people, I think comes pretty naturally as well. So the mental investment is actually smaller than normal, unless I was like preparing to play in an event. Then you got to just like grind reps till you can do it in your sleep. But yeah, I like to learn, and that's never going to go away. I couldn't just pick one game if I wanted to. That's the reality.
That's self-awareness, and we like that. All right. That closes the mailbag. I'm going to slide one in on you, DoA, before we say goodbye, which is, do you think it is completely capable? Let's say you buy one box of Star Wars Unlimited. You buy a box of Star Wars Unlimited. You open all the packs. You take out all the hyperspaces, all the foils. All the hyperspace cards and all the hyperspace foils. Do you think you can trade a stack of those for another box?
Depends on the cards, right? I mean, it depends on if you're pulling like the Green Vader Legendary and you've got that in hyperspace or something. If you, I mean, that might just be a box in itself. Who knows? But the Millennium Falcon, I think those two cards are going to be the big ticket items. It just depends, right? I mean, because there's going to be some legendaries that are like super high value, and stuff like Super Laser Blast I don't think that's ever going to be like a high price card, because it's going to only be in like very certain decks, whereas like the Millennium Falcon, that can go in like so many different heroism decks, right? And so I think it depends, but yeah, it's totally possible, right? I mean, especially if you end up with a showcase. Like I'm sure a showcase is going to get
Oh,
you
a showcase is going to
another
get you
box or two on its own,
It's
right?
gonna be like a crate. Yeah, absolutely. Depending on which one.
But just in terms of like hyperspace rares plus, legendaries and things like that, it's possible. I mean, it's I can't say for certain, right? Because who knows what the market's going to look like for this game when it comes out. But just looking at what exists in other card games that have that same system where it's like the base cards that you just need to play are very accessible financially, and then it's the alt arts that really are the collectability and the cost drivers for it. I think this game has that, and I think we're going to see a similar sort of breakdown where it's like the showcases could be, a few $100s depending on what character it is. Obviously, like, Vader or something, or what Leia is going to be more than probably like an IG-88, right? Unless somebody's a big IG-88 fan. So those are going to be like, I would guess in the range of $100 to $300 depending on the characters. And then some of the hyperspace foils, because it's just so rare to get those in a pack, because it needs to be that slot, it needs to be hyperspace, and it needs to be foil. Like, those legendaries are going to be pretty valuable, upwards probably. I'm going to guess around the high tens to the hundreds, maybe like low hundreds. But, again, those are just purely my guesses based on what we see in other card games. But to answer your original question, yeah, I think it's totally possible to get another box out of the alt arts in one box.
Sweet.
Yeah. Why not?
All right, Jackson Herrader and Simon Bedford, we hear you, we see you. I know that I had replied to your email saying that we'd get to those on this episode. We just ran out of time. We will get to them on next episode. There's a lot to dig into on this episode, and we're so close to the game launching. But now I think we're going radio silent with FFG with some of the information and such, so we'll have more time. But we do want to invite everybody to please send us your questions. Again, we'll prioritize the Discord for now to sort of hype that up. So join our Discord, join the Ice Cave Radio Discord, as well as you can email us, icecaveradio@gmail.com. We appreciate every little wonderful message that we get and every question and curiosity. Always is fun to hear. And if you haven't already, please hit the subscribe button here on YouTube or give us a 5-star review on whatever podcast platform you are listening to us. This is Ice Cave Radio. You can send me a message at WatchFlake. You can send DoA a message at GGDOA, at that Charm3R, or our podcast at Ice Cave Radio, all on Twitter. Friends, lovers, strangers, you're all the cat's ass, but we go out in style. Charmer, wisdom, do it.
May the force be with you.